In 1908, a farmer in southern France hit something hard with his plow. He thought it was a buried machine part. The metal was smooth, curved, almost engineered. It was a stone, shaped by a hand that died 40,000 years before the first wheel. For most of human history, the deep past did not look human. It looked like the work of something else. When people dug up the bones of mammoths, they called them the remains of giants and dragons. When they found polished hand axes in the scope, they called them Thunderstones, fallen from the sky during lightning storms. The objects were too precise, too deliberate, too old to belong to anyone's grandparents. So they were assigned to gods, to monsters, to visitors. Anything but a person crouching in the dirt with a rock in one hand. You have probably felt the pull of that explanation yourself. You see something ancient and astonishing, and a quiet voice asks, "How could simple people have done this?" That voice is older than you think, and it has been wrong every single time. Start with the Thunderstones, because they ran the longest. All across Europe and Asia, for thousands of years, farmers turned up sharp, symmetrical pieces of flint after heavy rain. Rain loosens soil and exposes buried things, so the stones seem to arrive with the storm. People built a whole theory around the timing. The stones were lightning made solid. They had protective power. You nailed one over a doorway to stop your house from burning. You dropped one in the well to keep the water clean. Across Scandinavia, they were called by names that meant exactly that, the bolts of the sky. Then, in the 17th century, a man named Michele Mercati, who looked after the Vatican's mineral collection, wrote something heretical for his time. He had handled hundreds of these stones, and he noticed the flake scars. Every thunderstone showed the same pattern of small chips, driven off from a striking point. He argued they were not made by weather. They were made by people who had no metal, people who hit one stone against another on purpose. He was largely ignored for a century. The idea that your ancestors were that capable that long ago was simply too much to hold. But the flakes do not lie. When you strike a piece of flint at the right angle, it fractures in a predictable, controllable way, peeling off in shells. Learn the angle and you can sculpt the stone in your hands, edge by edge, until it cuts. This is not random breakage. It is a craft with rules, and the rules leave fingerprints. Once people understood the fingerprints, the sky bolts collapsed back into what they always were. Tools made by hands like yours. So one mystery dissolved. But the bigger the object, the harder the human explanation became to accept. Which brings the trouble to a place in southern England, on a windswept plain, to a ring of stones, so heavy that for centuries no one could believe muscle and rope had raised them. Stonehenge has been blamed on almost everyone except the people who built it. Medieval writers credited the wizard Merlin, who supposedly flew the stones over from Ireland by magic. Later, people insisted the Romans must have done it, or the Egyptians, or the Phoenicians, some lost civilization with secret knowledge. The largest stones weigh as much as a loaded truck. The smaller blue ones came from hills in Wales, over 140 miles away. To a person standing in front of it, the math feels impossible. No machines, no metal cranes. No wheels worth the name. Just people, so surely it was someone else. Here is what the someone else theory always misses. It mistakes effort for impossibility. Moving a giant stone does not require advanced technology. It requires a great many ordinary people who agree, for years, to do one hard thing together. Experiments have shown small teams dragging multi-ton blocks on simple wooden sledges and timber tracks, greased and rolled a few miles a day. The bluestones almost certainly traveled by raft and by hand, hauled in stages across a generation. The real engine behind Stonehenge was not a lost machine. It was cooperation on a scale that we, scattered and distracted, can barely imagine. That is the twist hiding inside every ancient wonder. The technology was the people. The ability to plan across decades, to coordinate hundreds of hands towards something none of them would live to finish. And once you see that, you start to wonder. If your ancestors could organize like that, what else were they doing with their minds that left no obvious trace? Go deeper then. Go underground, into the limestone caves of France and Spain, because this is where the alien theory burned hottest and where it dies most completely. In 1879, in a cave called Altamira in northern Spain, a little girl named Maria was exploring with her father, an amateur excavator named Marcelino Sanz de Sautuola. She wandered into a low chamber, looked up, and called out a single word. Bulls! The ceiling was covered in enormous painted bison, red and black, rounded and alive, charging across the rock in the torchlight. Her father announced that these were the work of Ice Age hunters, tens of thousands of years old. The experts laughed at him. The paintings were too good. The shading was too sophisticated, the anatomy too accurate, the artistry too modern. Primitive cave people could not possibly have made this, they said. Sautuola must have hired an artist to forge them. He died disgraced, accused of fraud, defending a truth he could not prove. It took the discovery of more painted caves, sealed for millennia, before the scientific world admitted he had been right all along. But the apology came too late for him, and the deeper question kept growing. Because the caves are not just impressive. They are strange in a way that machines and forgeries never explain. At Chauvet Cave, dated to around 36,000 years ago, the artists used the natural bulges of the rock to give muscle to a charging rhinoceros. They drew lions with the focus of someone who had watched lions hunt. In some chambers they painted images that seemed to flicker into motion as a flame moves past them, legs multiplied like frames of a film. These were not the doodles of brutes. This was vision executed in the dark by people who had to hold the whole picture in their heads because they could only ever see a small circle of it at once. Who paints a masterpiece in a place almost no one will ever enter? That question stops people cold. It feels like there must be a hidden purpose, a code, a message left for us. But the answer archaeologists have pieced together is stranger and more human than any code. These deep chambers were not galleries. They were used. Researchers studying the famous hand stencils, the outlines left when someone blew pigment around a hand pressed to the wall, have found that many of them belong to women and to children. People went into the earth together. They made marks together. The caves were not a museum. They were a ritual, a shared act of meaning in the most frightening place they knew, the total dark. And that is the recontextualization that should change how you see all of it. The hand axe, the standing stone, the painted bison, none of them are really about the object. They are about the invisible thing the object proves. A mind that can imagine something that does not yet exist, and then bend the world toward it. The anthropologist Polly Wiesner spent years among the Juhansi people of the Kalahari, studying something with no physical trace at all. Their conversations, she found that during the day, people talked about practical things, who did what, who owed whom. But at night, around the fire, the talk changed. It became stories, myths, distant ancestors, faraway lands, the spirits of animals. The firelight stretched their imaginations past the edge of the camp into worlds they would never visit. James Suzman, who has written for years about the same people, describes a way of living rich in time and meaning while owning almost nothing. Their greatest technology was also invisible. It was the story, the shared imagined world that held a people together. This is the thread that runs from the Thunderstone to the cave ceiling. Every time someone looked at the ancient past and reached for aliens or giants or magic, they were refusing to believe a single thing: that the human mind, fully formed, was already here. The same mind that lets you picture tomorrow. The same mind that lets you read these words and see a girl pointing at a ceiling she will remember for the rest of her life. You think you are the modern one. You carry a glass rectangle that holds the sum of human knowledge, and you assume the gap between you and the cave painter is the gap between a god and an ape. But strip away the supply chains and the factories, and what is left? You imagining something that does not exist yet, and bending the day toward it. A meeting, a meal, a message to someone far away, sent into the dark, hoping it lands. The technology around you is just the thunderstone of your age, and 1,000 years from now, someone may dig it up and refuse to believe an ordinary person made it. So look again at the things your ancestors left behind, and notice what you almost said. Not, how did simple people do this? But the older, truer question, the one the plow turned up in that French field. You thought it was a buried machine. It was a hand reaching across 40,000 years, shaped exactly like your own.